be down the road in the books, but this was more than anything we've been given so far.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, John. This is like an actual explanation of the virus and what happens, and step by step through the brain and everything like that. We've done nothing like that in the comics up till now. We get all this, and only the 6th episode of the TV series.
Well, I was gonna say, to be fair, they don't tell us anything. All they tell us is that they don't know anything. Basically, we see what we already know in just the X-ray version, and then he says it could be fungal, it could be this, it could be that, it could be that, or it could even be the wrath of God. He has no idea.
We get a scientific explanation of physically what's happening to the body.
The symptoms.
Yes, but we don't know what it is, what caused it, but we now know what happens to the body, that it attacks the brain. I think Jenner said it attacks the brain like meningitis, shuts down the brain, and then we find out as he talks to Vi, hey, fast forward to the second event. I thought that was cool. When he said earlier, he said, fast forward to the first event, and I was like, well, I wonder what the next event's going to be like. So it's just kind of cool little scripting there. I thought, we see that in the second event, the disease kind of reanimates the brainstem only. The part that he described as the you part of the brain, the personality part of the brain, the Rick part, the Jenner part, the Andrea part, that's dead. It never comes back, and it's literally a lifeless automaton, a robot, organic robot. He doesn't use that word, I do, but that's what he means.
Some kind of a robot.
Yeah, robots. And he makes a comment about the reanimation time varies. It has been as little as 2 or 3 minutes, and has been as many as several hours. So it's never going to be the same, probably, for different people. And so that really doesn't clear up just how long Andrea was out. Could have been a couple hours, it could have been 12. So who knows?
I really like the X-ray.
I said Andrea, but I meant Amy.
I really like the X-ray effect too. Just that it felt kind of standard, and then as soon as it started moving, it wasn't out of left field because you knew it could happen. But for some reason, I don't expect the X-ray to do that, to suddenly lurch and start moving. And it drew you in and then shocked you. I thought it was a cool effect that way.
I'll tell you what shocked me is when all of a sudden you see the X-ray of a pistol come in, and you see the bullet blow through the brain and kill all the highlighted areas of the brain. And even Carol was like, what the hell was that?
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever seen that before in anything. I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah. And I forget who was it that said it, but it was a woman said he shot the test subject.
That was Andrea.
Yeah.
And she was pretty broken up over it. It seemed like she was almost like, I can't believe he shot him after you just shot your sister last episode.
Well, Jenner looks at her and notices something's wrong. Lori says she lost somebody. And Jenner goes to Andrea and says, I lost someone too. I know what you're feeling.
Now, even before that line, had anyone not guessed who TS-19 was?
I had not. We still don't know at this point. That's later in the episode we find out. It's not at this point when we find out.
Right, I know, but I'm like, even this scene or part of it up until the brain dying and then coming back, the brainstem, that was the scene they put up like a week ago. I guessed it from that. I don't know, it just didn't seem like there was a couple things in this episode they tried to be like, oh, isn't that surprising? And I went, no, it was pretty well telegraphed. Not in a bad way, but I don't know.
You must be a lot smarter than me because I didn't see it coming.
I just watched a lot more TV, probably.
Yeah, I don't think I did, but I don't tend to watch things with that kind of, I don't know what I'm trying to say. I don't want to say I'm not attentive because I am.
Well, see, I think, John, you and I and Jen, we're the older crowd, and it seems like I bring this up a lot, and I do it tongue-in-cheek, and we pick on Jordan, but we love him. But the older crowd tends to worry less about things that the younger crowd does. The younger crowd, my observations anyway, are that they pride themselves on figuring things out first without having to be told, or guessing the end of Lost before anybody else did, or whatever. At this point in my life, I'm just content to sit back and enjoy the ride. I don't have to figure it out before they spell it out for me on the TV. Okay, and we pick up with Jenner admitting that they have no idea what the disease is. He's been in the dark for a month, he says, and knows absolutely nothing, basically, about the situation in the outside world. And, he says we can see what's going on, but we don't know anything about it. We're not any closer to getting an answer than we were at the beginning of episode 5. It's basically what the writers were telling the viewers. So Dale says, look, I don't want to put you out of sorts any more than we already are, but what's the deal with the countdown clock? What happens at 0? Jenner says the basement generators run out of fuel. And then Rick says, so what happens when the power runs out? Jenner ignores him. He just walks away. Thought that was kind of weird. So Rick looks at the ceiling. Vi, what happens when the power runs out? And we hear her say, facility-wide decontamination will occur. Boom, cut to black, go to commercial.
I was waiting for it. You have to press the button and reset it every 108 minutes.
Yeah. Come back from commercial. Rick, Shane, Glenn, and T-Dog have gone downstairs to check out the generators in the basement. They find them empty, and it looks like there might be just one left that has a little bit of juice in it. Then the emergency lighting kicks in. Go back to Lori. She's in a room with Carl. She's reaching her hand up towards an air conditioning vent. Carl says, what's up, Mom? She says, the air conditioning has stopped. Cut to Jenner in his office. He's looking at a picture of a woman. He says, I did what I could with the time I had. I hope you'd be proud of that. And at this point, Jenner starts acting very strangely. He's dressed in his work clothes. He's got his tie on. He's wearing a lab coat. I'm like, that's kind of weird. When we first met Jenner, he was wearing a t-shirt and jeans, and he might have had socks on.
I actually thought it might have been a flashback at first. It was like his hair was combed real nice. And I was like, oh, we get a second flashback in this episode. And then he walked out over his hair. I was like, okay, he's just wants to look when he dies.
Everybody's asking him, dude, what's going on? He's walking through the facility. They're following him because he's basically just ignoring them. He feeds them little bits of information. The power in the building's being preserved and prioritized. They get to the control room in Zone 5. At this point, they're really up in arms about what's going on. He says, look, the French, he kind of gives them some new information that he didn't before. He says, as far as I know, the French were the last ones who held out, before everything went dark. They held out as long as they could. They were close to a situation, but their power grid ran out, just like ours is going to run out. Rick tells everyone to go get their stuff, and the klaxon, the alarm starts going off at the 30-minute mark, and people are starting to head out to get their stuff, and yet Jenner locks the door, locks everyone in the control room. Daryl is very upset about this and tries to attack Jenner. Rick says, let us out. Jenner says there's no point. Everything upstairs, topside, is locked down anyway, and I can't override the computer. And he says, believe me, it's better this way. Rick says, dude, what happens in 28 minutes? Jenner explains that the HITs, or the high impulse thermobaric explosives, are deployed, which are designed to eliminate basically any and all organic and non-organic material in the immediate vicinity. The HITs apparently are the biggest, most dangerous explosives known to man, apart from a nuclear explosion. Jenner says, when these things go off, it sets the air on fire. Everything will be destroyed, and there will be no pain. There will be an end to grief, an end to sorrow, to regret, to everything. At this point, you realize that their world is going to end. I mean, they're locked in a room that's going to blow up in 28 minutes. Cut to commercial. Was I the only one that thought he was just really kind of like acting strange?
Well, he had checked out emotionally at that point. I mean, he came back later with some At what point did he start his yelling about why they had to explode the building? Was that after the commercial?
Yes.
But yeah, up until that point, he just kind of
No,
no
I beg
emotion.
your
He's
pardon.
gone.
I beg your pardon. It was in that section. I kind of glossed over the fact that he lost it. He goes, he says things like, you realize what this place does. What it did. It protects the world from all these horrible diseases, and we've got this stuff here. And if it gets out, it could kill basically everything. So that's why these HITs were designed to eliminate the place and all of the existing organisms, the volatile organisms on site, all these diseases and whatnot.
I think he says in case of a terrorist attack, right? Doesn't he mention a terrorist
Yeah,
attack?
yeah. He says, in case of a terrorist attack or when the power goes out.
His freak out was really well done. I mean,
Yeah.
because at that point, up until then, this guy's kind of nuts. And then once he explained it, I was like, all right, you're still nuts and that you're not giving them a choice, but I can at least get where you're coming from now, because really well acted by Noah Emmerich.
Did Daryl start hacking at the glass with the axe yet?
He was
Yeah,
doing
well,
all through the scene. It was
The
kind of funny
best
to see
line.
that down.
The best line was
That actually happens when we come back from commercial.
okay.
Yeah, because the door had just been shut and Jenner explains about the explosives. So we come back from commercial. Everyone's still upset. Shane and Daryl immediately go try breaking the door down with axes.
Because that's going to work.
Yeah, Jenner says, "Hello, those doors are designed to withstand a rocket launcher. You're wasting your breath and
He
energy."
says, but Daryl says, but your head ain't. And he
Yeah.
goes after him. Yeah.
Yeah, tries to get him again, and they hold him back. Rick says, "We don't want this." Jenner says, "Yeah, you do want this. You told me last night that you knew it was only a matter of time before you all died anyway." And everybody looks shocked when they hear Jenner saying this. And Shane even looks at Rick and says, "Did you say that, really?" Because at this point, Rick has been the epitome of positivity. He's been the backbone of the group. He's the one that's kept hope alive. And he's even said, "I had to keep hope alive. I had to keep us moving. I had to keep us going." And once they heard that Rick was scared too, everybody's just looking at Rick, pleading with their faces. They don't even have to say anything. They're like, what are we going to do? Everybody's looking at Rick for guidance, even Dale. And I thought this was a really, really great character moment for Rick, because when he realizes everybody's looking at him, it's up to him to save him. He immediately goes into action again. He turns to Jenner and he says, "I think you're lying." It kind of feels like maybe Rick was grasping at straws or something, but even if he was, he's doing something. And this speaks to volumes to me about Rick's character and why I love his character so much. He will do anything he can. He will not give up. He says, "Dude, you stayed when everyone else ran. Why did you stay? You knew it was hopeless. Why did you stay? I think you're lying." And it turns out the answer is a little different than Rick expects. He says, "I stayed because I made a promise to her, my wife." And he's pointing to the big screen where TS-19 was displayed. And this is where it's officially revealed that TS-19 was your wife. Laura even says TS-19 was your wife. Jenner says that she begged him to keep going to try to come up with a solution. Meanwhile, in this whole scene here, Daryl is still back at the back door trying to break it down with the axe. It's really kind of funny. There's this really emotional, meaningful scene where he's talking about his wife, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, in the background, you hear the clang, clang, clang. Daryl's off in the back doing his own thing. He's not just sitting around. Jenner says his wife was a smart one, and that she's the one that could have done something about this disease, not him. He goes, "I just worked here. She was the brains of the place, and she could have saved, or could have had a chance to come up with something." And Rick says, "She didn't have a choice in the matter. She's got bitten, but you do. You do have a choice. You can let us out, and that's all we want. We want out. We want to keep going as long as we can. We have a choice. Let us take this choice." So Jenner, the whole time he's like, "It's better this way. You know what you're going to face when you go outside. You're going to face that, or do you just want to die peacefully here?" He's already resigned, obviously, to the fact that that's what he's going to do. Rick and Sophia and Lori, they're all like, "This isn't right. Our kids shouldn't have to die like this. This is our decision." Jenner finally says, "Okay." He opens the door that Daryl has been spending the last 10 minutes trying to break down, and reminds them, "I can't do anything about the doors up topside." Rick thanks him, shakes his hand, and Jenner pulls him close and whispers something to Rick. It's quite a long whisper, too. It's not like one sentence. It feels like 2 or 3 sentences. And when Rick pulls away, the look on his face is one of shock. It almost looks like Rick was going to fall over. It really looked like this rocked his world, whatever Jenner whispered to Rick. At this point, Lori has come back to Rick. Lori pulls him away and back towards the door. Everybody's trying to leave. And Jackie says that she's staying. There's no point arguing. She's going to stay. I don't want to end up like Amy and Jim. Andrea says, "I'm staying too." And Dale's like, "Hello, you can't do this. Why? You got to go with us." And she says, "Nope, not going to do it." Everyone else goes upstairs, tries to break their way through the window using the axes. T-Dog throws a chair at the window. Shane
He
goes
was
out.
determined with that chair. I thought he was actually going to make it at a couple points.
Yeah. Shane whips out the shotgun, pumps a couple rounds into it, and all of a sudden, the missing hand grenade makes its return appearance. Carol shows Rick a grenade she found in his uniform today. He showed up because she washed his uniform.
That was pretty awesome. I thought that was one thing I definitely did not see coming.
Yeah, I didn't either. But all I could think of was Carol has been carrying a grenade in her purse this whole time.
Well, you never know when Ed's going to get out of control.
Didn't Daryl even say like a hair clip's not going to help us, honey?
Yeah, that was Shane.
Oh,
Or nail file.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So-
it's cool that they used Chekhov's grenade there. Didn't just have it sitting around, because there's a couple other things this season set up and it hasn't quite paid off yet. But it was
Right.
cool of them to take that right from the beginning, and here you go.
Never underestimate what a woman has in her purse. Seriously.
Exactly.
Hey,
Exactly.
can we go back to the whisper for 1 second?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I asked on Twitter what everybody thought was whispered at that point. The overwhelming answer, and again, I did not think of this, but the overwhelming answer was that from the blood test, Jenner finds out that Lori is pregnant. One other answer, Ducky is lost, which is Lynn. She was, I think, the only person that didn't. There were a couple of joke answers that were very funny. Maybe we'll get into those when we do the feedback show. But Lynn said maybe Jenner, through all of the surveillance in the CDC, saw what happened with Shane and Lori.
Yeah, that's also a good one.
Luthen says, make sure future generations know the truth. Han shot first.
I think I like that one best.
It's very important.
There were actually a lot of funny ones, but like I said, maybe we'll do that next time.
Rick is successful in blowing the window open with the grenade. It's a pretty cool shot. Cut back to Dale and Andrea in the control center, and Dale says, "All right, you win," and sits down. Andrea looks at him and says, "What are you doing?" And Dale basically says, "I'm not leaving. If you're staying, I'm staying too. I don't want to face it alone." She says, "Don't pull this. Do not do this to me. I don't want you here." And Dale says, "You don't get to do that. You don't get to come into someone's life, make them care, and then just check out. I'm staying." And then he says, what I found to be very quaint and something an older gentleman might say, "The matter is settled."
And did we mention that Jackie is still there too?
Yes, Jackie was the first one to say she's not leaving. She doesn't want to end up like Jim or Amy.
Because, I mean, why it's awesome that we get the story of Dale and Andrea in this particular scene. she kind of gets the short end of the stick there in terms of, oh yeah, well, we'll see you later. Bye.
Yeah, actually, T-Dog cared a little
Yeah,
bit.
T-Dog tried.
A little
T-Dog
bit.
tried, and it was either Shane or Daryl pulled T-Dog away and said, dude, we gotta go now. So come back to the group. They're making a break for the vehicles, killing walkers along the way. And I'm going to give Zombie Kill of the Week to Daryl on this one.
Yeah, boy.
He swings his axe and just lifts the zombie's head clean off his neck.
This was an awesome switch in tone. When they hit the street and they just start, popping off guns and hitting zombies in the forehead and the head gets lopped off. Just a complete change in tone. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, because at that point, there was no zombie action, except for TS-19 on the big screen. But
And the flashback.
yes, thank you. I forgot about that.
I did too. I was like, oh, that's right. This is a zombie show.
Yeah. They're about to drive off when Lori sees Dale and Andrea making their way out of the CDC. We see a shot of Jenner and Jackie watching on the monitor, and he says they made it, and she smiles, and they look pleased about that. Rick realizes that Dale and Andrea aren't going to make it back to the camper on time, sticks his head out the camper and yells for them to get down. And they successfully dive behind some cover, and the CDC building explodes in, unfortunately, I even hate to say this out loud, some of the most horrible CG work I've seen in a very, very long time. Very disappointed in that scene because it looked fake.
See, I didn't think the fire worked so well, but I thought the actual crumbling of the building looked pretty cool.
Well,
And I thought the building was pretty bad.
yeah, the building, it seemed to kind of disassemble itself in a pattern, not so random pattern, and instead of a bunch of tiny pieces, it was a bunch of big pieces. It felt like, maybe they had shot their wad on the whole season.
Well, you know what? That's TV. I mean, we were getting bad CGI all the way through the end of Lost.
Yeah, remember the submarine?
Yeah, that's true.
And that's a very high-funded,
That's Disney right there.
Right.
That's Disney bucks.
Right. So TV is just not going to get your. I mean, I don't think they have the time, quite frankly, to put together the kind of CGI work that you would see in like a blockbuster movie or anything like
Yeah,
that.
I mean, is it passable for television? Yes. It was very passable for television. For a zombie show? Yes, very passable. And I'm cool with that. But, I also like to see good CG work that looks good. Enough about that. Dale and Andrea get in the camper, and the group drives off down the road.
The dulcet tones of Bob Dylan.
Yeah, singing Tomorrow is a Long Time. And I think that is an appropriate song because
October's a long time.
October is a long time for their tomorrow. So I was having trouble figuring out who was driving each of the 5 vehicles that were driving away. Rick was driving the RV. Shane, that was Shane's Jeep, if I remember correctly. There was a van. There was a
Pickup
Pickup
with
truck.
the motorcycle on his back.
yeah, and then is that Daryl's?
I think so. You're probably right. I think was T-Dog in the van?
I honestly can't remember. And then I've forgotten what the 5th vehicle was already.
The 5th one was probably Carol's. Or was she in the RV? There's a lot of people in the RV.
No, I suppose really it doesn't matter. I just thought it was interesting. I didn't realize they had 5 vehicles between them.
Yeah.
So then that's the end of the show, and it's a long wait. I'm gonna give this one 4.5 busters. I really, really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I think at least 4 for me. It was a really good show. I'd have to maybe on one of our shows coming up when we're looking for content, we'll kind of rank the 6 shows. But I'm gonna give it a 4 right now.
I will also give it a solid 4. Like I said, I had a few issues with predictability, and I'm not really the kind of guy who tries to predict stuff. I just happen to a lot of the time. I don't know. Like I said, I watch a lot of TV, and so things tend to get repeated. But it was well acted. There was a lot of really good acting in the entire episode, but it treated some things as surprises that didn't seem all that surprising. So that would be my major knock against it.
I have to give it I'll give it a 4, but just barely. I had some problems with like the pacing, the flashback at the beginning. I mean, it seemed like they showed us that, and then he told us about it later in the episode. I mean, it could. I feel like it was kind of redundant in some ways.
Well, I can definitely see your point on that. It was redundant in the fact that we saw it all happen and we're hearing about it again. But I think it goes to serve the purpose of redeeming Shane to some point, like we also mentioned earlier. He actually did try to save Rick, and at this point, when Shane is talking to Lori, as viewers, we're really not quite sure what the truth is. But because we saw it happen, we know that was in fact the truth. Yes, it was redundant, but there was a purpose to it.
I can understand that, but I mean later, they're trying to make Shane more 3-dimensional, and that's admirable because in the book he kind of wasn't in some ways, at least not to this extent. And then later when he has a sexual harassment panda moment with Lori, he tries to justify that that by saying that by telling everything that had gone on. I enjoyed the episode overall. I thought it was really good. I thought the guy who played Jenner was really really interesting, and it seemed like there was a lot of talking this episode, and I mean we didn't even really see zombies until the very end, like you said, except for the flashback. So I'll give it a 4.
I have some Twitter ratings. Buster on Twitter asked how many me's do you give it, which was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's cool that Buster has his own Twitter account now. I'm actually kind of sad that I didn't think of that first.
Well, Dane Ryder gave it 5 out of 5. Harley Big Daddy gave it 5. Luthen gave it a 4.5. Brad ZB gave it a 4.5. Ducky is Lost gave it a 4.9, only because she gives the pilot a 5. Fisty LaRue gave it a 5 out of 5. And I think that's it for ratings. So pretty strong. The Twitter following gives it some pretty strong ratings as well.
I'm really happy to see this show being as widely accepted by the non-comic audience as it is. 6 million viewers for this episode. I mean, wow. It just goes to show that some stories, some comic literature is actually that literature.
I kept thinking bittersweet is the best way that I could describe watching the end of this episode because it was so good. They pulled it off. We got our Walking Dead television show, but it is over. Yes, so it is very sad. And thank you.
The Bob Dylan song was cool, but I still think it would have been almost cooler if this song was playing as they were driving away.
Well, Brad, they have to hold on to something for season 2.
That's true. We might hear that. Bear McCreary, if you're listening, see if you can get the rights to The Lonely Man, please.
Brad will be a very happy man if it's that song playing with Buster walking away into the sunset.
Yeah, they got to walk away. They have to have like a knapsack.
I'm going to go cut together a couple of shots of zombies walking down the street to that music.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'll be cool. And I'll put a link up on Twitter once I do that. That'll be awesome.
So here's what we're going to do in this. Well, we're not going to announce what we're doing for the whole 10 months quite yet. But for our next couple of shows, we are going to stay weekly. We're going to have our part 2 next week. We're going to get to all the great tweets, voicemails, and emails that we are getting for this finale. Maybe I'll ask some more questions on Twitter that can generate some more feedback. But we got a ton of feedback. And we're already at, an hour and a half tonight, so if we would have tried to jam it in, it wouldn't have made a lot of sense. So we spent our time on the episode, which I think was a good idea. Next show, we'll do all the feedback. Then we're going to kind of do like a season wrap-up show. Maybe we'll announce what we're going to do for next year, and we have plans for when the DVD set comes out. We have plans to talk about the comics, so we'll get into that more. And we still have giveaways and hopefully some more interviews coming up and a lot of good stuff. So there's no preview for next week, sadly. So I'm going to send this to Jordan for his snazzy ending.
All right, everybody. We hope you enjoyed the first season of The Walking Dead on AMC as much as we did. You can send us an email at comments@walkingdeadtv.com. You can, of course, check out our other shows at halfhourwasted.com or legionofdudes.com or hhwlod.com. Check out that feed. Lots of great shows for you there. You can send us a voicemail at
516-468-7912.
And you can follow the show on Twitter at WDTV Podcast. Have we given out our personal Twitters as well? You can follow me at Jordan FRM Jersey.
Mine is Brad Milo at Brad Milo, BradMilyo.
Mine is Yoda Jones, YODAJONES.
I do not have a personal Twitter. I just hide under the WDTV banner.
Well,
And at LOD Tweet.
LOD tweet, man. You tweet on that all the time.
Yes, that is true.
And of course, you can follow at Half Hour Wasted as well for Brad Show on Mondays.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we're looking to. I enjoy the contests that are presents for new followers and iTunes reviews and stuff like that. So I think we're headed towards 500 Twitter followers at this point.
Awesome.
I know we did the contest at 300, and then we went to 400 in like the blink of an eye. So now we're over 400. So when we get to 500, we're gonna give away some more stuff. And same goes for 100 iTunes reviews. When we hit those marks, we're gonna run some more contests. So join in. There's a lot of you out there, and we have no way of interacting with you without things like Twitter and the reviews and emails and voicemails and stuff like that.
And another way we have to interact with you is Forum for Geeks. If you go to forumforgeeks.com, it's FORUMFORGEEKS.com. You can join the conversation, talk about all of our shows, a whole bunch of different podcasts. You can find the entire Walking Dead podcast network. I believe that's 6 shows at the moment. You can find links to interviews to the Walking Dead cast members and just find other cool Walking Dead content.
Hey, guys, you know what I did just now while you were going all over that information?
No,
What,
you put together the video?
No, I just bought the high-def season of Walking Dead Season 1 on iTunes.
Very cool, sir.
They've got, for each episode, it looks like they've got a Inside the Walking Dead little featurette that goes along with each episode, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they're cool. To be fair, they're the same exact ones they have on the AMC website, but they're in high def and they look really cool. And it's a cool look behind the scenes of the show. Talks with the cast and the crew, exactly what they were feeling behind some of the key scenes of the show.
I can't wait for New York Comic Con next year when I get to ninja into another panel. I'm excited for season 2.
Well, that's it for tonight's episode. Until there's no more room in hell and the dead walk the earth, remember, tomorrow and the next season of The Walking Dead may be a long way away, but the next episode of The Walking Dead TV podcast is right around the corner. Have a good week, everybody.
Good night.
Brains.
And brains to you, too.
If today was not a crooked highway, if tonight was not a crooked trail, if tomorrow wasn't such a long time, then lonesome would mean nothing to you at all. Yes, and only if my own true love was waiting, if I could hear her heart softly pounding, yes, and only if she was lying by me.
This is John, who was supposed to be third.
No, you said Jordan, John, Brad.